Appium interview questions and answers. First question, what is Appium? Appium is an open source tool for automating native, mobile web and hybrid applications on iOS and Android platforms. Appium is cross-platform. It allows us to write tests against multiple platforms, iOS, Android, using the same API. This enables code reuse between iOS and Android test suites. Appium was launched in 2012. Next question, what are native apps? Native apps are those written using the iOS or Android SDKs. Next, what are mobile web apps? Mobile web apps are web apps accessed using a mobile browser. Note, Appium supports Safari on iOS and Chrome are the built-in browser app on Android. Next, what are hybrid apps? Hybrid apps have a wrapper around a web view, a native control that enables interaction with web content. Next, which language is used to write tests in Appium? We can write our tests in any language since Appium is nothing more than an HTTP server. A test which needs to be interfaced with Appium can simplify use HTTP libraries to create HTTP sessions. You just need to know the Selenium protocol in order to compose the right commands, and that's it. Most common languages and development frameworks are C#, .NET, Java, Ruby, Python and JavaScript. Next, what are the prerequisites to use Appium? Prerequisite to use Appium is Android SDK, Eclipse IDE, JDK, Selenium Server Jar, WebDriver Language Binding Library, TestNG, Appium for Windows, APK App Info on Google Play and JS. Next, what are the advantages of Appium? Appium allows us to write tests against multiple mobile platforms using the same API. We can write and run our tests using any language or test framework. It is an open source tool that we can easily contribute to. Provides cross-platform for native and hybrid mobile automation. Support JSON wire protocol. It does not require recompilation of app. Support automation test on physical device as well as similar or emulator both. It has no dependency on mobile device. Next, what are the limitations of Appium? Appium does not support testing of Android version lower than 4.2. Limited support for hybrid app testing. Example, not possible to test the switching action of application from the web app to native and vice versa. No support to run Appium Inspector on Microsoft Windows. Next, what test frameworks are supported by Appium? Appium does not support test frameworks because there is no need to support them. We can use Appium with all test frameworks we want. NUnit and .NET unit test framework are just a few examples. We will write our tests using one of the drivers for Appium. Thus, our tests will interface with Appium just in terms of an external dependency. Next question. What are the basic requirements to write Appium tests? To write Appium tests, we require first one, driver client. Appium drives mobile applications as through it were a user. Using a client library, you write your Appium tests which wrap your test steps and sends to the Appium server over HTTP. Next, Appium session. You have to first initialize a session. As such, Appium test takes place in the session. Once the automation is done for one session, it can be ended and wait for another session. Next, desired capabilities. To initialize an Appium session, you need to define certain parameters known as desired capabilities like platform name, platform version, device name, and so on. It specifies the kind of automation and requires from the Appium server. Next, driver commands. You can write your test steps using a large and expensive vocabulary of commands. Next question. What is Appium Inspector? Similar to Selenium IDE record and playback tool, Appium has an inspector to record and playback. It records and plays native application behavior by inspecting DOM and generates the test scripts in any desired language. However, Appium Inspector does not support Windows and use UI Automator Viewer in its option. Next question. How can we exchange data between our test and the app we are testing? Appium actually, the WebDriver specification is not made for exchanging data with our app. Actually, it is not impossible to exchange data with our app. However, it will require us to build more layers of testability. Next question. Explain the design of Appium. Appium is an HTTP server written using Node, JS platform and drives, iOS and Android session using WebDriver JSON wire protocol. When Appium is downloaded and installed, when a server is set up on our machine, that exposes a REST API. Appium receives connection and command request from the client and execute that command on mobile devices Android, iOS. Appium responds back with HTTP responses. Again, To execute this request, it uses the mobile test automation. Mobile test automation frameworks to drive the user interface of the apps. Mobile test automation frameworks are Apple Instruments for iOS, Google UI Automator for Android API level 16 or higher, Selendroid for Android API level 15 or less. Okay, thank you.